This is an r/letsnotmeet submission by user queencommie. Mac, my local gas station creep. I mostly lurk on Reddit and just discovered this sub. I remembered an encounter I had about a year ago that I have desperately tried to forget. I live in the downtown area of a pretty major city. My street is relatively quiet, but I can't say so much for the surrounding neighborhoods. My city as a whole is infamous for drug activity and gun violence. We also have an increasing number of homeless people, as our shelters have almost all closed down. I've generally never minded. Shit happens, and I didn't grow up in the best circumstances either. I would never stereotype anyone based on their housing status, and I was even involved with a homeless outreach program at the time. I left and never went back after this, and I've been hesitant to help anyone since. It's 10 or so at night, and I'm headed to my partner's parents' house, about 30 minutes away from my own. I get about 2 blocks away before remembering I need gas. I'm not too fond of the idea of stopping at a gas station near my apartment at this time of night, but I wasn't going to make it all the way out to the suburbs. I pull into one in a not-so-great part of the neighborhood, but it was brightly lit and there were a lot of people walking by, so I don't think much of it. I get my gas and go in to grab a couple of snacks. When I came back out, a tall man in a black coat and brown beanie started casually chatting to me. I couldn't tell if he was 25 or 40. His voice is so low that I can barely make out what he's saying. Something about being a music producer and working on a new project. He seems friendly enough, while maybe a little erratic. So I let him ramble for a few minutes before politely telling him I need to get going. He tells me his name is Mac. I unlock my door to get in, and this fucker gets in the passenger seat with me. At this point, he is no longer a friendly, chatty stranger. I am fucking terrified. His demeanor hasn't changed though, and he's still acting like this is the most normal thing in the world. While I've had more than my fair share of encounters with creeps, nothing like this has ever happened to me. I don't scream, I don't tell him to fuck off, I just sit there in fear of what he'll do to me if I resist.
"I need money for my son,"
he says.
"He's in the hospital with a gunshot wound. His mom's waiting for me."
I know this story is bullshit, but I just want him out of my car. I give him what little I have in my wallet and tell him I need to get going. He has the nerve to ask,
"Can you drive me to my friend's house? It's right up the road."
What? Isn't he supposed to be going to the hospital for his son? I try to decline as politely as I possibly can. I tell him my boyfriend is waiting for me, and this opens the floodgates to a bunch of personal questions about my sex life, what my boyfriend and I are going to do when I get there, and extremely gross, unsolicited comments about my body. I have tried to block out his exact words, but to me it was incredibly gross, and I'm sure that this is it. This is the end. I'm trapped in my own car. The gas station parking lot is empty. I can't call the police, and even if I could, it would be a bad idea. I'll elaborate on that later. I wish I could tell you that I had some genius idea that helped me to get myself out of this, but I didn't. I'm panicked and frozen, and finally I agree to take him to where he supposedly wanted to go. He has me drive around this neighborhood, winding through dark side streets with a lot of seemingly abandoned houses for what seems like forever. He finally had me stop in the parking lot of a beauty salon where his friend supposedly works and is going to get a ride with her to the hospital. The parking lot is on a busy street and brightly lit. If he's going to kill me, he picked a terrible place to do it. He was all over the place and talked rapidly. Little details of his story kept changing constantly, and he is clearly high as a kite, and probably mentally unstable as well. All the while, he continues to act like we were longtime friends, and nothing about this was terrifying. He keeps telling me he would give anything to trade places with my boyfriend. Ugh, gross. I keep gently reminding him I need to be leaving, and he keeps telling me to stay because his friend will give me money to pay me back for helping his son out. I wonder why she couldn't have just given him the money directly if that was the case. I ask him what's taking his friend so long. He says he doesn't know. Can he use my phone to call her? I want to say no. Maybe this was all an elaborate ploy to steal my phone and take off. I'm still thinking he could be a murderer though, so I reluctantly hand the phone over. I should have dialed the number for him. He's taking a long time to dial while I'm looking away, and then... Oh, Jesus fuck. All of a sudden he's looking up porn and jacking off right in front of me. I wish I had a way to prove this because I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's true and the image is burned into my mind. Should have seen that one coming, I guess. At this point I lose my cool and tell him to get the fuck out. I'm done. He starts crying? Wailing? about how I'm just so hot and he hated thinking about me with another man and I just turned him on so much, and I'm staring at him like, okay, too bad, but you need to go now. He straightens up with a big smile on his face and says,
I'm just fucking with you. I'm not a pussy, so I wouldn't cry like that. Are you sure you don't want to take me to...
And he says a completely different location. Yes, I am fucking sure. I told him my boyfriend was probably worried about me, as an hour had gone by at this point. Somehow that got his attention and he got out and left. I drove to my partner's house shaking. He and I had just started dating at this point, and I didn't want him to think I was stupid or something, so I just nonchalantly told him that I was dealing with a creep at the gas station, and it took me a little while. Much later, I told him the real story, and he was appropriately horrified. I wish I could say it stopped there, but I started getting calls from all kinds of local numbers for the next couple weeks. Only one voicemail was left, and it was a lot of breathing and very faint words I couldn't make out. I'm creeped out, but I try to dismiss it as paranoia. One time I actually answered.
Hey, it's Mac. I have your money.
I feel like I need to throw up. I don't need it, I say. Leave me alone. I hang up as he starts rambling about how beautiful I am and how he wants to see me again. I block every strange number that's been calling me, and the calls stop. I can't imagine how he got my number. My only thought is that when he opened my phone to call his friend, he looked at my contacts, where my own number is displayed at the top. You may wonder why I never called the police. My city is extremely well known for its police using excessive force, especially in the downtown area. People are regularly killed by police here, and I've personally witnessed people be beaten up by cops for quite minor infractions. I do not intend to make any kind of political statement or express my opinions here, but I genuinely felt I would have been putting myself in further danger by calling the police, even after this was all over. Best case scenario, nothing would have been done and I would have been chewed out by the cops for being stupid enough to let this man into my car. Worst case, they would shoot him and I would have to live with that forever. I've regretted that since though, because a friend of mine later had an encounter with him as well on the complete opposite side of the city, and he gave her the same story about his son in the hospital. She ended up driving him around aimlessly for an hour before screaming at him to get the fuck out. So, Mac, you're welcome, but let's never fucking meet ever again.